Shalom from Karabiyavna. If you would ask who in Jewish literature amongst Gedolei Yisrael was the ultimate optimist, so I'm sure everybody would answer, of course, was Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, at the end of the Gemara in Makos, when there are shu'alim, when there are foxes running around, and the Kodesh HaKadoshim and the other Tanaim start crying, Rabbi Akiva is tzochek. Rabbi Akiva sees the silver lining of the dark cloud. One Amud earlier in Makos, when there's the sound of the Romans celebrating, and the other Tanaim start crying, Rabbi Akiva sees the silver lining. In the Gemara in Sanhedrin, on the Kuf Aleph, when Rab Lazar Haggadah, Rab Lazar ben Hyrcanus is sick and lying there in bed in pain, the other Tanaim are crying. Rabbi Akiva, even there, sees something positive about the situation. When Rabbi Akiva himself is taken out to be killed, as the Gemara relates in Brachos, even there, Rabbi Akiva is able to see something positive about the situation. The Gemara tells us in Brachos Daf Samach Aleph from Beis. And being that this is the case, Rabbi Akiva is such an optimist, there's a question we'll ask from the Psukim, from the Pasuk in this week's Parsha. In this week's Parsha, there's a Pasuk which causes Rabbi Akiva to cry. The Pasuk says, Isha hafiram v'Hashem yislach la. First, let's explain the Pasuk, and then we'll mention why Rabbi Akiva found this Pasuk so difficult to swallow, why he found the Pasuk so depressing. The Pasuk is a difficult Pasuk. What does it mean? Isha hafiram v'Hashem yislach la. God will forgive her in light of the fact that the father, that the husband, was mefer the neder, annulled the neder. If the neder was annulled, why is there a need for a slicha or kapara? So the Gemara explains that this is referring to a situation in which a woman took a neder and the husband was mefer the neder, but the woman was not aware of that hafara. She thought the neder still exists, but her yetzer hara got the best of her, and she violated the neder. Well, at least she thought she violated the neder. So says the pasuk, in such a situation, Hashem yislach la. She'll have a slicha and kapara. So Rabbi Akiva, when he got to this pasuk, says the Gemara, he would start crying. It says, this is the Gemara in Kedushin Daf Pei Aleph and Beis. Rabbi Akiva said, if when a person intends to eat b'sar chazir, but it turns out that what he ate was a b'sar tleh, he ate something which is kosher. If even over there's a need for kapara, so certainly when a person intends to do an avera and does an avera, how much more so, that's something very, very serious. That's something which requires a great amount of kapara. So Rabbi Akiva, the great optimist that could handle all sorts of difficult situations, when he gets to this pasuk, he starts crying. This pasuk we read last Shabbos, read on Sheni V'Chamishi. I don't assume that anybody cried when they heard that pasuk. So what is it about this pasuk? Why is that pasuk so depressing? If Rabbi Akiva is always able to view things in an optimistic fashion. So I think that probably the answer to this could be provided based on another Gemara that tells us about Rabbi Akiva. We remember from our childhood the Gemara in Brachos Samach Amud Beis that relates that once Rabbi Akiva came to a certain town and wanted to stay in the town, but he couldn't find anybody that was willing to host him. And he had a donkey, he had a chicken, he had a lantern, a candle, and the candle was blown out, and some cat came and tore up the chicken, and also the chamor was trapped by an aryeh, I believe. And Rabbi Akiva says, Gam zu l'tova. And Rabbi Akiva told us, Kol mai de'avdrachmana, kol mashal zer kodesh baruch hu, kol l'tova. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch writes that one is meant to say, Kol ma de'ovid rachmana kol tava, the tav of it. So Rabbi Akiva would tell us that when it comes to things which are not within our control, when it comes to issues which have to do with God's running the world, concerning that, Rabbi Akiva would say, Hakol tava. That's something which Rabbi Akiva would be able to handle. That Rabbi Akiva says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing. We might not understand it, but nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a master plan, and therefore, Hakol tava. But when it comes to the realm of human activity, in light of the fact that Hakol b'dei shamayim chutz miras shamayim, when it comes to our decisions, when it comes to our actions, concerning that, Rabbi Akiva felt that's very serious business. If a person does something which is improper, there's a need for din b'cheshbon. If a person sins, especially if he sins intentionally, that's something very sad, that there's a need for slicha v'chapara. The Rambam in Hilchot Tshuva, Parak Hey, Halacha Beis, when he speaks of Bechira, he writes there, V'ushe Yirmiyahu omer mipi al yon lo tetzeh ha'ra'os v'al tov. Ein haborei gozer al ha'adam, lo lios tov, lo lios ra. V'chem shekein nimtza ze ha'chotehu v'fsid atzmo. V'pichach ro'ui lo livkos l'konen al masha asal ha'nafsho v'gmala ra'ah. If a person sins, then there's room for his getting upset. There's room for his crying. I would assume that Rambam is echoing that Gemara in Kedushin, which relates that Rabbi Akiva would cry when we get to that pasuk. The Jewish people is now in a very difficult situation, whether it's in Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz, all sorts of issues we need to deal with. So on one hand, we have the right to assume that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. He will bring us to a better place, and somehow this is all part of the divine plan. On the other hand, we certainly have to see to it that whatever is within our hands, we do the best that we can. We have to see to it that whatever is in the realm of Yiras Shamayim, we make our effort, and in between our efforts and HaKadosh Baruch Hu running the world, we're sure that the world will end up in a much better place. Shabbat Shalom.